I'm Sean Lambert. Today, what we're going to be doing is chit-chatting and working on a special map for a member of the International Kriegspiel Society. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm taking the beautiful Thunder on the Mississippi map. Hold on, let me take off all my layers here. Taking this beautiful board game map from MMP, and I have GIS located it onto, real life Vicksburg, which admittedly the modern map is slightly different. There are some differences in the bends of the rivers, and obviously the amount of industrialization in the area has changed a lot, but overall it's still a pretty close proxy for what it would have looked like in 1863. And then on top of that, I have drawn in all of these different terrain layers, kind of hand drawing them over what the game board terrain said it should be. So I've had to look into what all of these colors look best as. And that's been like 99% of what I've been doing so far. I'm not particularly happy with the art 100% yet, but it's starting to get there. So then on top of that, we've placed the major towns that are marked on the map and deleted anything that wasn't on the map. And then we've started to add in some of the smaller points. So these are like houses or farms that are marked on the board game map. And so if I reorder this, you can see how these farms are mentioned here. So I've got to mark in all of those, and I've just got to go through the entire map doing that, which is obviously quite the task because there are a ton of little points that are noted. Then on top of that, what I'm going to do is place some farmland terrain, some of these fields and such. And then the last step will be drawing in roads. But the big enhancement that you get when you do it in here is you get this terrain. So this is a hillshade layer that lets you see how rough the terrain is, or any hills or mountains or anything like that. I might also add in, not sure yet, but I might add in like altitude markers. I'm not sure on that though. The jury is still out. But ideally, at the end of the day, what it'll look like is this is going to be the basic map. Let me turn the rivers on, because I do have those already done. So this will be the basic map. And then within this, I'll also draw in all the roads, obviously. But from here, then I think the next step might be putting in just some small altitude markers on some key points of terrain, and improving the art style of like the forest areas. This is really just a preliminary placeholder art style. I actually do have, now that I think about it, I do have a couple of art styles that I've used in the past that I might just be able to reuse. So let's see, I have this forest style. Let's see how this looks. Oh, maybe I picked the exact same color in the other style. I was expecting the color to change, but maybe I'd already picked that color. So anyway, the backstory to this map is basically in the Kriegspiel Club, we like to have big operational maps, and this definitely counts as one of those. And the reason we like those is because it lets us play on larger game boards that are good for playing operational games, and then you can make a smaller board. So like if you're going to do more of a tactical battle, you might zoom into one particular area of this. And the beauty of having it already in GIS is then you can use the same map style and just zoom it in. So if you wanted a more zoomed in level, so like let's say a tactical map of 1 to, I don't know, 15,000. This is about 15,000. Well, it's 12,500, but obviously a very zoomed in version. You can't really do that with the game board map because it gets all fuzzy and doesn't look too good. But when you're in GIS, you can zoom in pretty damn far and get quite a bit of detail that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get. And so there's certain places on this map where we'll be able to play out more tactical battles, which could be pretty fun. Now, obviously, some of these indicators here need to be scaled down a bit at this scale, but I think that could be pretty fun. And like I said, this art style is still very much a work in progress here. I'm calling this clear terrain, although I realized later, after I had labeled it, that it is actually supposed to be rough. It's not clear terrain, it's rough terrain. So I just labeled it wrong. Now, if you zoom out, it looks okay. It still looks okay. It's when you zoom in, and I think the actual output scale is 50K, if I remember right from the back of the box. So I think that the requirement for me is to at least be able to do a 50K map. And then I will also show a version that's more zoomed in than that. But that's the first goal, is to get the 50K map done. Now, probably the next step for me is like just kind of cleaning up the art style, and then maybe making some decisions about where I want the roads to be and what I want them to look like, that kind of thing. Usually my technique for putting in roads is pretty damn simple. I come into Quick OSM, I do primary link, secondary link. So you just do a highway, 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 a whole bunch of highways. And then you just take the primary and the primary link, secondary link, tertiary and tertiary link. And that will give you kind of like your big highways. Now in the United States, obviously the road system changed a lot over the years. And the modern roads are nothing like what the 1863 roads would have been. But the benefit of doing it this way is that it gets you a whole lot of roads down on the map to work with, and then you can kind of drag and drop them if you need to. We will put it over this. And the other benefit to doing it this way is that you know that the roads are going to be drawn accurately, but you can see already that there's going to be way too many in and around Jackson. Jackson is turned into a pretty major city. It's obviously a lot more populated today than it was in 1863. So this area around Jackson, we'll have to cut down on the roads quite a bit. But at least it gives you something to work with. Basically what I do for the roads is I just make them white. I make them white and like scale them to be like 50 meters at scale, which pretty much disappears them from the top level. But when you zoom into the proper scale to like 1 to 500 or 1 to 50,000 rather, it'll be the right thickness, which that'll look a lot better. But then what you can do with this layer once you have it in is you can kind of add to it. So like say we want to have a road that goes up here. We can do that pretty easily. Or if we want to move a point of it around, we decide that we want it to come more over here, we can easily do that just by, kind of controlling what already exists rather than having to reinvent the wheel, which I think saves a lot of time because even if they're in the wrong places to start with, it's pretty easy in this map. Like this is an interchange clearly here. I think this is an interstate highway here. I'm not sure. I don't really know the roads that well. I've never been to Mississippi, so I can't say I'm familiar with the roads around here, but a lot of times what you'll see is artifacts of modern roads. So you'll see like exit ramps and stuff like that drawn in. But it's easy to get rid of that. You just go in, delete them. You know, if you don't want the double line, you could just delete one of the lines. Not a big deal. You know, just delete it all the way back to the root. And now all of a sudden you have a road that's at least in a sensible place, if not the historical place. At least it is in a place that makes sense within the context of the geography. It's not just going to be like randomly drawn in. I feel like if I were to just randomly draw the roads, I would probably do a worse job of it than just querying for the modern roads and then editing them to make it look more historical. The big problem you run into is just like in urban areas that have been urbanized in the 20th century, you run into just the modern urban road layout, which is gridded and, you know, looks like this essentially. In certain cases, like if you're doing a Gettysburg map, you could actually maybe work with something like this because the Gettysburg roads in the town itself haven't changed that much. So you could just delete the old ones. But if you want a more artistic, simplified look like what the map of this particular game has, that's going to be a little trickier to get. But you can see already, we're actually not far off from what the game has for roads. We're pretty close. So I wouldn't expect the roads to exactly overlap. And I don't think that's a big problem. I think you can actually live with this level of accuracy for what we're doing. But that said, I mean, maybe you want it to be perfect and you would go through and drag and drop all of these roads onto the black lines. There's a lot of stuff over here. Wow. It's like 5 roads on that one little node. But you can see here that we're not that far off from the historical road. And that actually could be an artifact of our geolocating this map, our georeference. It's so close that it makes me almost think that maybe our map is just skewed off a little bit. So I might just leave the roads in this area kind of as they are and just try to clean up some of the ugly bits that go off into nowhere. Because there's a lot of this weird stuff where it's kind of like overlapping existing terrain. Yeah, just like some weird stuff that's going on here. I also think I might need to make the Pearl River a little bit thicker, because see how it's not quite hitting both banks of the river? So I might need a little work on that. Overall, the art style just needs a lot of work. And so then with all these roads, I would have to make sure that they kind of look more historical, more like just a line instead of all of the detail that you would get with a GIS query. But that's kind of the work that goes on when I'm making one of these pseudo-historical maps, I'll call them. So they're not quite historical because they include some modern GIS data. But that's really just to make up for the fact that I don't want to go through and try to reconcile all the different historical atlases and data sources that exist. And I don't really have ready access to, a library of historical atlases or anything like that. So for me, this is kind of the only tool that I have that I can make a map that's accurate, which is more important than being historically accurate. I want it to be physically accurate more than historically accurate at this level. And so I think that it's a good trade-off to just say, well, this is where the roads are today. Where would they be historically? Maybe a little bit different places, but maybe I can get them there. Now, the harder thing to deal with for me and this particular map is some of the water features. So you can see on the LiDAR here that there's a lot of these little streams that I don't have marked on the map yet. And I think they all basically are where they used to be. But there's definitely some differences that I was noticing. And even the flow of the Yazoo and the Mississippi in the area of Vicksburg itself is different today than it was in 1863. So the river has migrated quite a bit, actually. And in some places on the Mississippi, the river's migrated a ton. Now, I think part of this is actually just the georeferencing of the game board map, or maybe inaccuracies in the game board map itself. But you can see here that Vicksburg's kind of in the right place based on this. You know, it's not really that far off. But we just have the Yazoo River in a much different place, because they have it coming in. I don't even know. Maybe this whole area has changed so significantly that it's just not really comparable anymore. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that. I'm kind of half of the mind to leave the Yazoo as it is, like further south instead of coming in further north. But at the same time, it's significantly different, than the map. So like this whole area here is completely different than it was back then. I don't know if that's a big deal for the game. If you're playing the actual campaign of Vicksburg, you're not really playing around Vicksburg all that much. Because the invasion occurs further south, and then most of the campaign is kind of taking place in the middle of the map, trying to cut off Jackson from Vicksburg. And I don't know how much it really plays into it that Vicksburg, the area around Vicksburg itself, exactly matches up to the game board map. But it is something I want to try to fix if I can. I just don't know if it's worth the effort of completely redrawing the river. And then I would have to smooth the terrain in some way. I don't know how much I want to get into that. This whole area is basically just swamp anyway, so it's not like it's a terribly useful area for combat. Probably won't be used at all. So I would imagine that I could probably get away with leaving it as is if I put enough detail into other places. But anyway, that's kind of the overview of what I've been doing. Now I'm going to get back to clicking on little places and adding in new points. So essentially my procedure here is I just type it in, and then eventually I'm going to have to do better art on them, but that's easier to do after all of the points have been located, in my opinion, because one of the most annoying things to do is you get your art all perfect and then you realize, well, that point's not correct or the scale isn't right. So I'd rather do all of the placement first, just get it down, and then fiddle with the art styles after that. Putting down the fairies as well. I'll put that one on the bottom, I think. Is that Higginbotham? Higginbotham. Higginbotham Ferry. It's a hell of a name. I think this is going to be a fun map to play on, but it's obviously a lot of work to get there. So I hope he's happy with it, but I never quite know. I never know how people feel about my maps. I personally always feel like I'm improving, and that's all I care about. But I don't know how other people feel about how my maps look. Like, I enjoy playing on them, and I feel like they're at least playable, if not the prettiest. And to me, that's kind of what I look for in a war game, is the map is most importantly readable. I don't care as much if it's super gorgeous, although I will say, personally, I do tend towards the more visually appealing maps. So like a Rick Barber map to me is kind of the top tier of maps in war games. And everything below that level is primarily has to be functional if it's not beautiful. Like I'm willing to accept a loss in functionality for increased visual beauty, but I'm not willing to like throw it completely out. The map still has to be usable, unless it's like an abstract map where the colors don't really matter for the game itself. I don't know. It's always a tough balance. It's always a tough balance when you're making a map is, well, how much effort do you want to put into the art style versus the accuracy? And so that's why I think getting the map started with a GIS program is actually a really good approach. I was talking to some people when I was at Compass Expo about whether or not it is a good approach to use a little bit of GIS, but I don't know. It seems like, at least in the hardcore board game designer industry, like the guys who've been there a long time, I feel like there's a little bit of a stigma about it. I don't know if that's because of like company policies back in like SPI or Avalon Hill or something like that, or if it's just a feeling like, and I've heard this expressed by some other map makers in my club, is like they try to hold themselves to drawing everything. And I think that's just kind of, for me, that's a ridiculous requirement. I cannot possibly draw as well as the computer can draw, right? So like the computer's just going to draw better lines than me. Like somebody else has already drawn these better. So why am I going to try to recreate the wheel and objectively make it worse when I know for a fact that the data already exists and that it can be utilized for free by me? And it gets me started on a map. I find it very inspiring when I am starting from something rather than a blank sheet of paper. I've never been the kind of person, art-wise, that works well with just blank. Like when I'm doing a painting, for example, because I occasionally dabble in painting, I will immediately try to fill in the background with a tone of some sort. I'll squirt some brown onto that canvas and smear it around. As gross as that sounds, that is that's pretty much my standard approach, is just to get the background not to be that shiny white color and to get some color on. And then I usually paint by removing some of that brown to get back to a whiter brown color. But I like to at least tone the canvas first and go from there. And I have the same approach with making a map, because GIS is my way of just toning the canvas. Now, if I were making maps professionally, like if it was my job to make the art for maps, I don't think I could do it. I gotta be honest. I think I would want to take too many shortcuts all the time, because I find that certain parts of map making is just super tedious. So I feel like I wouldn't enjoy it. But I mean, if you're into hand drawing your maps, more power to you. I also don't know a ton about Vicksburg as a battle. I know a little bit. Frankly, I know more from the Little Wars TV video that they did where they went to Vicksburg and played their game there. That's probably my favorite video that they've done, honestly, including the ones they've done with our club. But I actually liked that battle more than anything else they've done. It's like somebody spelled Iowa wrong. IOE. There's the good school and the bad school. We chose the wrong one. Jay Davis. I wonder if that's Jeff Davis. That'd be an ironic name for a farm. Just happens to share the name of the president. But I think the important thing for me is to just always be trying to improve maps. And I find that I make the most improvement when I am trying to figure out how to do a huge project, like something that I've never thought about doing before. That's just like beyond my capabilities, totally beyond my capabilities, that I don't have a hope in hell of doing. And when I get into projects like that, like this one is like really beyond my capabilities. I'm probably not truly good enough to do this project, but I start it and I just plug away at it anyway, with the understanding that it's going to result in a inferior product compared to someone who does it professionally. But the bright side is that I learn a lot about making a map, and usually a lot about the battlefields themselves as I'm drawing the maps, which to me is the whole reason I do the map making side of wargaming. I learn a lot playing games, obviously, but I learn probably twice as much when I'm designing and getting all the stuff together for a game. And I think that's the part of Kriegspiel I love the most, is the fact that you get to be involved in every little part of a game, from start to finish. Whereas when you're playing a board game or a computer game, you are kind of seeing the polished result, the end result. You don't get to see all the cool little things that they learned along the way unless it's put into the designer notes. And so I always also appreciate when a designer puts in their designer notes all of the struggles they go through in developing the game. Not so much a changelog, but more of a story of how the game got made and how the decisions got made at different points. Like, okay, you started out working on the game at an operational scale, but then you changed your mind and you wanted to do more of a strategic level game. And then you realized, well, strategic level is not actually that fun in this situation. So you went back to an operational map. Like, those are the kind of stories I like to see in a game map, or in a rulebook. And so what I'm thinking about is the rulebook for Fall Blau from Compass Games. I was really pleased with the designer notes for that, because it gives you real insight into what they went through while they were making the game. Like, it's not just a clear path to victory when you are a game designer. For the most part, like the higher experience you have, the less up in the air your design is at the time you kind of submit it. But hearing the other side of the fence, like before you submit it, most designers don't talk a ton about what they go through to get a game ready to sell. And so I like hearing those stories of not just the super successful games, but the games that maybe they don't do so well commercially, but they had a ton of love put into making them. And to me, that makes them valuable just for what the designer learned while they were making it. And I think it's worth playing a game like that, like a Fall Blau, where it was kind of a labor of love, and it's an older game, and it's maybe not as polished as a modern game would be. But it has its, good sides too. I mean, the stuff about it that you can fall in love with is the story of its development. So I like getting into those kind of topics. Now, there's also parts of development that I still are a complete mystery to me. And at Compass Expo, I was talking with some of the designers there, and I was struck by the fact that, at least in Compass's wheelhouse, the design process is, usually shockingly quick. Like, designs are put together pretty quick. They kind of just, it's something that a person usually has pretty well thought out in their head, or they've got a lot of stuff that they've already put together ahead of time, or it's a mix of old games that they've designed in the past. And so there's never a lack of designs. There's always a gazillion designs out there. Everyone has 5 or 6 designs that they want to make. The hard part is developing those designs into a product that somebody will actually pay money for. And I don't know in the wargame industry if there's a best way of doing that. But I think, to me, the games that get me excited when I'm reading about them or I watch a YouTube video about them are the ones where the designer and the developer are both still involved, and who are, trying to sell the game to you by either teaching it or just acting excited about it. Like, you could tell that they enjoy playing their game. And to me, that's the mark of a good game, is if the designer enjoys playing it. If you see the designer plays the game, it probably means the game is actually good and is actually fun. If the designer designs the game and never plays it again, then you might wonder, well, did they just design it for the sake of designing it, or did they actually enjoy it? And you never quite know. But I think the games that I've kind of fallen in love with personally, like Bitter Woods, and more recently Fall Blau, I know for a fact that the designers both play those games. Like that's their main game. They don't really play anything else. Definitely with Bitter Woods. I mean, Reddy basically plays Bitter Woods and a couple of other games, and that's really everything he plays when he goes, like at a Compass Expo. He's playing Bitter Woods, and that's it. And he plays it pretty much better than almost anyone else, except for maybe Bruno. And there's definitely good players, but what I'm saying is he's kind of near the top of the heap when it comes to players, if not at the top. And he enjoys playing the game even after years and years of the game being out. He still has the same passion for it. And to me, that's what really sold me on a game like Bitter Woods. And I am a sucker for a game that is enjoyed by its designer. So if you want to sell me a game, you have to play the game. Now, maybe that's a ridiculous requirement. A lot of designers probably don't have time to play a game after they've designed it, because they have to be on to the next one if they're kind of a commercial designer. But I mean, you see Mark Herman playing his older games. You know, he'll pull out a game he designed 20 years ago and still enjoy it. And I think that's a testament to a good designer, is that they're able to still play their games even after a long time, which to me is really cool. Now, just thinking, talking along with this video, I really would like to try like a live stream someday and actually be able to answer questions about games and chit chat, you know, like Ardwolf does. But I've always been concerned with the amount of internet I have, whether or not it'll hold up to live streaming. So I've never done it. But I like this kind of conversational style. And I feel like I'd be okay at it. I could talk as long as Artie could talk, but I just don't know if anyone would be interested in listening to me. You know, because I've got so few subscribers compared to him. And I don't know if that's a good way to get subscribers or if that's a good way to lose subscribers. Like, I don't know how this video is going to do. And frankly, I don't care. That's why I'm making it. Also, I haven't made a video in a month. So that's definitely playing into it. But a lot of the time when I'm not playing war games, I'm doing stuff like this, where I'm just doing some sort of super, boring, tedious task, but I like to think about the game that's going to come out the other side. And then half the time when I get to that game that comes out the other side, I don't even play in it. Like, I'll do a lot of the grunt work for it, but then not play. Is that bar? Yeah, that was barn at first. It's definitely bar. I feel like we're starting to fill things in here. We're getting a lot of locations marked down. Oh shit, I spelled that wrong. Oh well. Roach. Here, Roach. That's a great game too, The Witcher. I still have not played through it, but my dad loves that game. I've never been able to grind my way through the game. Like, I am not a big RPG player in general. If I play an RPG, I kind of prefer it to be more like traditional D&D. Like, I would almost rather play a customized tabletop game than I would like a really nice AAA video game RPG. Because I find that I don't know, it's not that I get bored of the games, because it's hard to get bored, but it's just when I'm competing against other games that, I mean, to me are more of the focus of what I play nowadays. Like if I was, let's say I have The Witcher and, War in the East installed, and I'm trying to pick what I want to play for the night, I will talk myself out of picking The Witcher because I'll be like, well, I should be playing a war game. And I feel like I waste time if I'm not playing the war game, because then afterwards, I'm not like, when I'm not playing games, or like if I'm sitting at work, just kind of spacing out or something like that, where I have a free second to think, my mind tends to drift towards thinking about the next war game I want to play these days. It used to be that I always drifted and thought about Dota. But nowadays, I think pretty much exclusively about playing war games when I'm not playing them. And that includes nights where I fire up a non-war game, like an RPG or something like that. Or even like a war game that's kind of on the border of being a war game versus not being a war game. I wonder if that's an inside joke there, coffee. I wonder if that's a reference to him drinking coffee while he's designing the map. Gotta wonder. But what I'm getting at is, I feel almost like buyer's remorse, like the same kind of feeling you get when you have buyer's remorse when I play a non-war game. So the way I avoid that is I will work on wargaming products if I don't feel like playing, but it lets me not feel that same sense of regret. That probably sounds absolutely bonkers. I'm sure that most people cannot relate to that, to literally feeling buyer's remorse on their own personal time. But to me, my personal time is so precious and so rare that if I misuse it, like if I feel like I misused my time, I'll literally feel like anxiety. It's horrible. It's an insane way to live, but I usually have like maybe 2 or 3 hours of free time every day, and if I feel like I blew it on a mindless video game, even if it's an enjoyable, even if I have fun, I might have all the fun in the world. I might think, oh wow, this is a great game, fantastic. I almost feel like it's wasted because it's not a war game. Because it's not my thing, And I've always been like that. I've always been I have the game, and I like to dump a lot of effort into the game. Nowadays, the game tends to be a mixture of war games, but that doesn't mean that I don't still have that feeling of needing to play the game. Hope that doesn't come off as too insane. I'm sure somebody out there must occasionally feel that way. If you want to talk about buyer's remorse, though, I still have Carrier Battles Philippine Sea in its shrink. Have not played it, and I've been feeling super remorseful about that game. Like, I bought it kind of on a whim. I was really into naval games at the time I went to Compass Expo, and I am somewhat ashamed that I have not played that game because it looks so good. It looks so fun, and then every time I think about playing it, it's like, oh god, but the rules are so heavy. My brain will explode if I try to learn this right now, and I put it off, and then I never play it. So I think at some point I'm gonna have to just bite the bullet and start playing it. I feel like I've got a good amount of the map filled in now, right? I mean, Kind of want to zoom out and see my progress at some point here. I had this crazy idea of doing a Leyte Golf, like kind of in-person giant war game, similar to what they did with the Pearl Harbor on Little Wars TV. I really had it in my head a couple of years ago that I was going to get a game together for the anniversary, and that has come and gone, and I did not put a game together. But that's okay. It happens. Maybe I'll play a little bit of Bitterwoods or something for Battle of the Bulge. I actually have been playing BCS last Blitzkrieg for my Bulge game lately, and I've been enjoying it, but I do have some issues with it as a Bulge game. Not necessarily as a game. Like, I think the design is fine, but so far, I mean, right off the bat, Liège is not on the map. Why not? It seems like a weird omission to leave Liège off the map. It's not that far off the map. Like, it would only be a matter of extending the map a couple of inches. So why didn't they just shift the map upwards a little bit? There's nothing on the bottom of the map that is so valuable to keep that you couldn't cut off some parts of the bottom. I just think it deserved a better map. And, you know, maybe there's reasons why they did what they did, but to me, a Battle of the Bulge map that doesn't have Liège on it is questionable at best. So I am kind of struggling with fully enjoying the game because there's just little things about it that I don't like. And I'm still not sure if I like BCS itself. I definitely have not immediately come into it and thought it's the best thing since sliced bread. Contrary to what some people experience when they start playing BCS, I didn't immediately jump into it feeling like, oh yeah, this is the game, this is the best. I kind of felt like it's kind of unconventional. It's good, but I don't know if it's fun. Like, I do have fun when I'm playing it, but is that because I'm hanging out with, a fellow wargamer and enjoying my time playing a war game? Like, would I have an equal amount of fun if I was playing a different war game with him? Those are the kind of feelings I get when I'm playing it. And the turns are so long. Like, it takes you tons of time to make it through a turn because there's so many things to do compared to, like, Bitter Woods. You kind of just go down the whole map. There's no real back and forth. You just do it. You just go down the whole map and make all your moves and then pass it to the next guy. In BCS, it's so much slower because you have to go through all the activations for every single division. You're activating at the division level. And believe it or not, there's a lot of divisions in the Battle of the Bulge. So it takes you a hell of a long time. I mean, I think we've played at this point like maybe 10 hours, maybe more. And we're basically completed 2 turns. To me, that's crazy slow. Like almost 5 hours a turn. That's crazy slow. Now, admittedly, we're both new to the system, and maybe we're also chit-chatting a little too much. But I still feel like even if we were playing as fast as we possibly could, I would be hard-pressed to get the time down to an hour. I think it would take like an hour and a half if I was just totally focused on just playing the game as fast as I possibly could. And I already kind of had a plan in mind. A lot of it is that we don't know what the meta is, like what the plan should be. We have ideas about it, but then we have to talk it over with each other, like, oh, does this make sense to do? Because what we don't want to do is ruin our whole like long term, because we're trying to play a whole campaign, right? We're not doing one of the short scenarios. We're trying to play the whole campaign. And so when you're committing to a campaign, you don't want to ruin it right off the bat by kind of just screwing up a basic rule or something like that. So I think that's our main concern. Oops, can't bell. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about this more conversational style. I will be more than happy to try to live stream something like this if you find it interesting. Or if you think this video is trash and I should never ever talk like this again, also let me know, because frankly, I'm really unsure. Like, I've definitely at a point in my YouTube lifespan here where I feel like I've gotten in a bit of a rut making my basic just let's play kind of videos. I don't think that they're particularly enjoyable to watch. Like, I will admit I only watch every other one. Now, I did enjoy playing that campaign, and I thought it was a lot of fun. But like, if just a regular let's play video, just, you know, turn 10 million of 10 million, I don't know if that's particularly entertaining anymore for some people. Like, when a game is brand new, I think that kind of content is very entertaining. If you have never seen the game before, it's very entertaining. If you're trying to consider whether you want to buy the game, it's entertaining, but it's not necessarily informative. And so, like, I would prefer to spend my time trying to maybe make a more of a tutorial series in the next couple of months. Try to leave. What I want to do is, when I stop playing the War in the East, I want to leave the game with a well of content. You know, I want to leave it with a whole bunch of stuff that other people can come along and pick up the game easier than what I've gone through. Because frankly, learning Gary Grigsby games is quite the undertaking. And I would like to make somebody else's life a little easier. So my big goal for next year is to try to make people's lives easier when they're learning the game. And I don't know what else I will be able to do besides some Let's Plays. But I feel like my board game content is so time consuming to produce, because you got to film it all. You got to, wrangle your cameras and the lighting just to make it look at all legible. You got to do a lot more work on it. And then on top of that, I have this whole part of my wargaming life that I have no idea how to make content for, which is the Kriegspiel stuff. But I really enjoyed playing it. It's just almost impossible to make videos on. Like, obviously our club has literally thousands of videos and barely that many subscribers. Like, I think it's maybe one subscriber per video. Maybe not even that. There might even be more videos than subscribers. Maybe it's 2 to 1. I don't know. But it's not a great ratio. It's not like we get 40 subscribers per video. Now, certain videos have gotten a ton of subscribers, but then there's videos that do terrible. And what I'm trying to learn how to do is to make a product like a wargaming video, or video and text of some sort that makes Kriegspiel more accessible to people, without completely turning them off to wargaming in general and being super boring. So I think if I could fit in some live streaming along with those two goals for next year, that'd be a pretty full schedule. I mean, like I said, I only have like 2-3 hours a day. So if I could do occasional Let's Plays like I've done this year, I've done a couple of videos on games I've played or events I've gone to, and then my main content will still probably be War in the East, but I'm going to try to start tilting it more towards War in the East tutorial content rather than just my existing series. Now, I do want to try to finish up at least one of my campaigns, like one of the grand campaigns. And I think I'm actually pretty close to the original one I first started. I think I could probably bang out, another 20 turns of that and win, or get to a place where I can say I would win. But I don't know if I want to film it all. That's the thing. Like I definitely, if I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna film it. But then, do I want to edit it? That's the part I never am sure about. Because obviously, I've gone through different phases with the videos. Some of them I've edited a lot. Some of them I've edited not at all. And I don't really have a consistent style on them. So maybe I just need to bang them all out and eventually get to a place where I know what the style for them should be. All right, let's take one look at how much progress we've made today. So I'm going to turn off the actual real layer here, turn back on our terrain, and we'll take a high-level look at all of the work we've put in. I think it's starting to come together. Yeah, I think it looks kind of cool. We just need the little black roads to connect everything. And then we need to work on the art style a little bit for everything else. But I think we made some pretty good progress. And especially in the Vicksburg area, but really all over the map. We've kind of been everywhere on this map. And I'm really happy with how it looks. Now, next time I work on this map, I'll probably have to do a lot of work on roads and such. But it is starting to come together, I feel. Yeah, I really like how it's starting to look. Now, I obviously need some connecting roads here. But a lot of this, now that I have kind of the locations placed down, or most of the locations placed down, I can kind of already see where I need to draw extra roads. Obviously I need to draw a road to connect this stuff because there's just a line of objects. So I think it was the right approach to put down all the objects and then connect them after that. Because here I can kind of see that there's going to need to be a bunch of roads coming through. So I think I can work with that. It's really it's starting to come together, I think. And then I just have to do another pass to see if I've missed a whole bunch of places. Like obviously, right here, I missed this Floyd Cemetery here. I even spell it Floyd. Obviously, I've been working on this too long. But I think this style will work for my my club, and hopefully next time we can get some more of this cleaned up. But I think it's starting to look really, really good. Yeah, I like the look. So anyway, till next time, see ya.